When we add a list item, that allows us to mark a list item as read, and that's something that we want to do as we're reading these books. We want to mark it as read, or maybe mark it as unread if we accidentally checked that box. So let's add one more mutation here for updating. So I'm actually going to copy this. We'll paste that right here. And this function we'll call update, which will accept a generic update. And for our update, we're going to use the HTTP method of put, and we'll accept an object of generic updates. And as part of those updates, we're going to get the ID. So we'll say updates.id, and then we'll also pass that as our data. So the backend can take that and update this particular list item. And then with that, we can come down here to our mark as read, and we'll add an on click here, which we'll call update. We'll pass the ID of list item. We'll pass the ID of list item.id. And to unmark something as read, we're going to set the finish date to null. So it no longer has a finish date. To mark something as read, we'll set that finish date to date.now. So we just finished it now. Now let's save that and come over here. We'll mark this as read, and we'll see that we have this put request right here, but we actually didn't send along any data. So let's figure out what's going on here. And it looks like I passed the update function as my data. So that's the problem. So let's pass our updates, that updates object that we receive when we call update. So we're passing this object along to our backend so it can make that update. So let's try that again. I click on mark as read. We do that put request. Here we're sending the finish date as well as the ID, and we get back that list item. And then because this will invalidate that list items query, we're going to make a query to get all of the list items for this user. And we'll see that includes this list item with the finish date set. Let's go ahead and try to unmark as read. So we'll get a put right here with the finish date set to null. And then we'll invalidate that query so it will re-request all of the data to make sure we have the very latest of all of our list items. So now we support create, read, update, and delete for our list items. In review, for the update portion of this, we use a React query mutation. For our mutation function, we accept all of the updates that need to be made, and then we call into our client to make those updates with a put method. We pass those updates as data. We pass along the user's token to make it an authenticated request. And then when it's finished, whether it rejects or resolves, we're going to invalidate the list items queries so we can make sure we have the very latest of all of the list items.